You co-star in Black Mass as the wife of a federal agent who gets involved with Whitey Bulger and the Irish mob. How much, if anything, did you know about the Whitey Bulger story before signing on for this film?
I'm from the Boston area, so I knew a little bit about it growing up. And then, of course, when Whitey was captured in Santa Monica, everybody was reminded of that story and how crazy it was. So yeah, I knew a little bit about it. And then it's funny because my dad came with me to the Boston premiere, and a couple of my aunts and uncles and my stepmother, and we were talking after the fact, and he said, "Don't you remember you used to go?" Because I said, "What do you know about it?" And the people who lived there at that time, they all know names, faces, stories, because that was what they were reading in the newspapers every day. And my dad said, "Don't you remember you used to go trick-or-treating at the Angelos?" And that, of course, that was the time. I said, "No, I don't remember trick-or-treating at the Angelos." And, you know, my best friend's dad's uncle was Suitcase. And so there were all these things around me at the time that I was blessedly unaware of.
And that Boston, that Boston locale is a big part of this story, and very specific, area and the very specific accent. And you yourself are from Massachusetts, but your on-screen husband Joel Edgerton is actually Australian. What was that aspect like, of the film like for you as a Massachusetts native, to actually play this role, especially when a lot of your co-stars are not actually from the area?
Well, I definitely had an advantage, to be sure, just knowing that time and that place so well, and that accent. And I'd been wanting to do a film in a Boston story for years. I'd go to movies and see these trailers for The Fighter, Conviction, all these things. And I was like, when's my turn? So I was very excited to be included in this, sort of one of the ultimate Boston stories.
And your husband, played by Joel Edgerton, most of your scenes and your story is with him. What was it like developing that changing marriage, that deteriorating marriage over time, with him as actors?
I'm such a huge fan of Joel's. I think he's terrific. He always sort of pops on screen for me, so I was excited to work with him. And we didn't have a lot of time, because what you said, it does happen, that deterioration. We meet them and they're very much in love and optimistic about what the future holds. And then it's only a matter of, years. But what we see is a few 2 or 3 scenes before it gets from, bliss to something's not right to, full on goodbye. So I think it was just sort of getting to know each other and hanging out between takes and between scenes. And he's such an easygoing, likable guy that it just sort of, I think by spending time together, we just came to like each other and appreciate each other, and then sort of really try to be as honest as we can with, we've all been in relationships that start somewhere and go someplace else. So, the specifics are different, but I think we've all been there.
Marianne being a real person, did that change how you approached the role? Was there any information to draw on about the character? Of course, there's a lot about Whitey Bulger and some about right. John Connolly out there, but is Marianne a figure that you were able to research?
Not really. John Connolly's first wife was Marianne Connolly, but the character in the film is actually sort of a compilation of a couple of the different agents' wives and specific stories from each of them. So there wasn't one person. I read Black Mass, the book, and there's stuff within there that, sort of gives you an idea of what it would be like being married to one of these guys. And for me, I just felt like I had the advantage, as I said, of being from that area and, grew up there in the 70s and 80s. So I just had a familiarity with the place and the mood and the sound of that area and time.
You're also working with Johnny Depp in the film, of course, and he looks and sounds nothing like himself, with the hair and makeup and accent that transform him into Whitey Bulger. What was it like working with him? Like, did he stay deep in character a lot of the times? Was it that kind of performance, where he's basically Whitey all the time?
In my experience of him, he, between setups or before the end of the day, he would relax it a little bit, but it never really went away. I can't imagine he could give the performance that he gave and, you know, put it down at night. I'm sure some of that lived with him from start to finish, and maybe even still today.
There's, of course, that memorable scene between the two of you where Whitey threatens Marianne. He puts his hands on her neck, and her fear is really palpable in that scene. What was it like shooting that moment for Marianne?
Well, for Marianne, I mean, it's terrifying. You know, she knows, you know, she doesn't know exactly what he's done or not, but she knows many of the things that he's being charged with or that he's being accused of. She sees the effect he has on her husband, and she's not happy about it. So to have him be that close and in such an intimate place is very scary. And then as Scott sort of pointed out as we were filming, you know, he reminded me, this is a terrible thing that's happening right now, but just remember your husband is downstairs allowing this to happen. And just sort of that betrayal added a whole other thing. And then he reminded me also that, you know, 2 scenes previously, he choked Juno to death. So there was a lot going on. And just Johnny is amazing and is so generous and really wants everybody to do their best work. So it was thrilling and scary and fun. And you know, it was very confusing too, because there was also a real seduction going on. So even with the sort of terror and fear, there's still like a little, I don't know, it might be TMI on my part, but there's something quite sexy about Johnny and that character and that moment.
Yeah, that's something about a lot of characters like this. You know, these criminal characters, these anti-hero characters that we see a lot. There's fear and there's evil to a degree, but there's also that charisma and that come through through Johnny. Do you think?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, he has it in spades anyway. Obviously, that's sort of undisputed worldwide. But I mean, they said Jimmy Bulger had the same quality, so Johnny just brings his to that, and then stick on those eyes and that whole look, and he was definitely charismatic. Yes, ×2.
Your story is pretty contained in the film, so you don't get to interact with everyone in what is a pretty big ensemble cast in this film. So what was it like seeing the whole film ultimately put together for the first time?
I was blown away when I saw this movie because, as you say, I have a couple of scenes with a few people, and then the one scene with me and Joel and one with me and Johnny. But I thought everybody did such a great job, sort of start to finish. From that first scene where John Maturana was like licking his peanut fingers, I was like, that guy is amazing. And Jesse Plemons, I think, is so brilliant and looks so from that place, that sort of punched up Irish face. And Rory Cochrane, I thought I was really impressed with everybody's work. Peter Sarsgaard, I thought was beyond spectacular. So I was very excited to be included in that group. It was a huge, huge honor.
Going into award season, the Screen Actors Guild likes to award large casts like this, and you've had that experience yourself in a much different kind of film, August Osage County, where you were nominated for Best Ensemble. And of course, that was a much different kind of ensemble because you were in these big group scenes. You're basically interacting with pretty much everyone in that cast. How is that shooting experience different from something like Black Mass, just in terms of being part of an ensemble?
Well, as you say, August was much different because we were pretty much all there together all the time. So I was there in Oklahoma for 9 weeks, and we all lived on a little cul-de-sac. So we would see each other in the start of the day, the end of the day. We would have dinners on Sundays. So it was very much. It became a family. Whereas this one was very in and out, and so I didn't really feel the connection with everybody. I got that with Joel, but otherwise it felt quite individual, for at least for my character. I bet that Jesse and Rory and Joel would probably have a different thing to tell you.
Being an actor, of course, getting that recognition as a cast, as you did from the Screen Actors Guild, was that especially meaningful?
Yes, yes. I think that's the most meaningful, sort of being seen by your peers. That's pretty special. I was very honored to have that happen.
And August Osage County, of course, based on the Broadway play, and you've done theater yourself. Making a film is certainly quite different from acting in a play. But was that filming experience at all like doing work on stage? You know, as you mentioned, you're all sort of on set together.
Yeah, it was actually. I think, as you said, because it started with the play, brilliant play, and then we would, you know, especially for that one that dinner table scene where we're all at the dinner table. We were at Merrill's the night before, and John Wells was there, the director, and he sat us all. We were going to be sitting, and we just ran lines, because he didn't want to film it, you know, piecemeal. He wanted to run it and run it and run it. So everybody had to be off book, and everybody had to really be acting with their A game. So that did feel like that. And just and as you say, the connection of just being together all the time. That's very much like a play rehearsal.
You've had a few other high-profile roles over the last couple of years. You know, another one that made a big impact was Lillian DePaul in the first two seasons of Masters of Sex, and you were actually nominated for a Critics' Choice Award. And we at Gold Derby actually have our own awards every year, and our readers nominated you twice for that role. So what was it like playing that character, and then ultimately having to say goodbye to her when she died last season?
I almost still can't talk about it without crying. That's my favorite character that I've ever played so far. Or should I say that's the one that got under my skin more than any character. And I think it was because when I started, I really had no idea where it was going to end. So it was every time I got a script, I felt like I learned more about her. And every time we filmed a scene, I learned more about her. And I came to really appreciate who a woman like that could be in that time doing that work and being sick. And I loved working with Lizzie Kaplan. Like, I thought that relationship was so special, and not like many you see on television. They're, even in their differences, their respect and love and care for each other. I just loved it. I think Michelle Ashford, who writes the show, is amazing, and she just really wrote this beautiful, complicated woman. And when she died, and I loved how they ended it too. I'm not sad that I'm not doing it anymore. I just felt like I read somebody forwarded me where I felt like in her passing, you had already got to know so much more about her than you assumed the first season. But I felt like it opened the window to all there was left to know about her that we didn't get to know. And that sort of, I found that heartbreaking.
And that's one of the benefits of TV is you have this character who starts a certain way. Like when we first met Lillian, she was very kind of cold and seemed unfeeling. We didn't really know much except for what we were seeing on the outside of her. And then over the course of several episodes, we get to see more and we get to see more, and that character really blossomed over time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I felt like that to me also, which you can't predict, but I felt like that happened also, and it was, I loved that role. I loved playing Lillian DePaul.
And you've done a number of TV series over your career. Is that something that you like about the TV series format? Getting to sort of dive deeper with certain characters.
I do. I like that. I enjoy both, but it is kind of fun. It can be dangerous too, because you can read a pilot script and think it's amazing, and then it can turn into not what you were expecting in the other sense. But it is fun if they're great writers, if you love the character, if you're surrounded by other like supporting talent, then it can be really fun to take that time and really dig deeper, really get to know someone.
I want to congratulate you again on Black Mass and on Masters of Sex. Even though that was a season ago, I still feel like I want to congratulate you on it because it was such a special role. And thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Have a good one.